Hello everyone, Pallytime here. Welcome back to Heroes of the Storm. No face cam today because I have a lot of work to do in a very small amount of time. About to go on vacation for the holidays and I need to get a few more videos done. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at Lunara. She is the newest Warcraft hero to be added to the game. Blizzard says that she has a medium difficulty. I don't really think that I agree with him at all. She seems, well, we could talk about it when we get started.
La chasse commence.
Yeah, all right, ladies and gentlemen, we find ourselves on the Dragonshire map today. The friendly team Sylvanas, Muradin, Sergeant Hammer, Lieutenant Morales, and Lunara. The enemy team Uther, Rexar, Abathur, Sylvanas, and Vala. So, that's a good start. One of the things that I find the most frustrating on Lunara is dealing with stealth assassins. Zeratul and Nova have become so much more popular this week just because so many people are playing Lunara. I think at level 1, we don't need to reveal enemies or anything. I think I'm going to go for increased Noxious Blossom Radius. Noxious Blossom is our Q ability, which is just going to deal a little bit of damage on impact. After 0.5 seconds, cause an area to explode with pollen, dealing 166 damage. I mean, that and it's great stun. That's oh god. That in itself is not too impressive, but it does apply your nature's toxin, which is what really starts to come into play later on. That's where the majority of your damage is going to come from. So you can see I can come in here and I can poke at our viewers that I love more than anything, and then I can detonate that. I can detonate that poison that's already on them, and that will actually slow everyone affected down when I use my W ability. W ability, Crippling Spores. Yeah, basically it's just a slow on anyone that you have your passive on. Pretty powerful. You're really incentivized to spread your toxin around a ton on Lunara. Can I win this trade? Yeah, okay. You really are incentivized to spread your toxin around a ton on Lunara, and your E ability is a wisp that will scout for you. Isn't that fun? She has a faster than normal movement speed. She actually moves at 20% movement speed, which is half mount speed. And this can be increased a little bit later on to make her even faster if we want a talent for that. I'll let our Sylvie Bay know that I'm coming in. We'll go ahead and slow this other Sylvanas down, and we should just be able to grab the dragon now. Never mind, looks like we are gonna be contested by this Uther. Here we go. I'm going for it. I'm going for it. I'm going for it. No reason we can't just kill that Sylvanas, but unfortunately I have to walk away. The enemy team's Rexar are actually being taken down up in the top lane, so they don't have anyone contesting up there. At level 4, I think this is one of the weirder parts of Lunara. They force you to pick an E talent. So Wisp just kind of gives vision. I personally like to go for Dividing Wisp, so we can have 2 of them sitting around. So it allows me to scout 2 places at one time, but I don't necessarily think like any of these are game changing. Like if you have stealthies on the enemy team and you go for the talent that reveals an area, the Wisp itself has to die. So if you want to detect stealthies with this, they actually have to kill the Wisp in order for that to be a thing that happens. Which, I mean, it's very easily counterable. If people are intelligent enough not to kill Karazim, then they, you know, when he has Divine Palm on him, then people are intelligent enough not to just attack a Wisp that happens to be in the lane. It seems like you can either go for a mage style build or an auto attack style build. We're gonna go for auto attack style. That's the plan right now. I have seen some reports about Lunara having some bugged auto attacks because of her weird animation. It seems like that seems to be the root of the cause on her jumping around the map. Let's see. We want to go for basic attack damage. Okay, so like apparently when she's trying to switch targets very quickly, sometimes the attack just cancels. I'm trying to replicate it here. I think it's a little bit better if we're trying to switch targets more. I don't know. I saw a video about it. So, I don't know. I don't know. I don't feel like she's quite there yet. I think she needs a little bit more refinement. Not only because of that issue that may or may not actually be an issue, but just because of her general kit. Like, I don't really think that this feels good. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just found 2 mines with a wisp. Man, I must be the best player in the whole game. Must be the best one. Now, she is extremely good at chasing people down, but if your team doesn't have a very competent front line, in most cases, she is really, really, really going to suffer. She does have some talents that allow her to heal off of her toxin, for instance, at level 7, but it's the health regeneration of a regen globe. I would compare it to the Feral Heart talent from Rhaegar. The only difference is that Rhaegar can benefit from that talent whenever he pleases just by getting into his mount form. Whereas Lunara has to put a poison on a target, and this poison only lasts for 3 seconds by default. Now this does stack 3 times, so let's say we wanted to auto-attack Vala 3 times, she would have a 9-second poison on her, which is a pretty big deal. Like, that's a really long poison. That's one of her benefits. She basically has a free envenom, and she can spread that around and then detonate that envenom to slow and crowd control targets in an area. So that part of her playstyle was really cool. We don't really have any damage over time characters anymore. Most damage over time playstyles have been pretty significantly nerfed. And the fact, well, I'm just dead. And the fact that she can spread, she's incentivized to really spread her damage around. I think if we eventually do get an Affliction Warlock style of character added into Heroes, it's going to have that same feel, where you're really incentivized to spread your damage out. Now, she does have ridiculously low cooldowns on her ultimates, so Thornwood Vine is probably going to be the go-to in most situations just because it's reliable damage, right? You just deal damage in a line. It has a 15-second cooldown, and you have 3 charges of this bad boy. Leaping Strike allows you to jump over a target and deal damage to them. Really good if you get yourself in a bad situation, but you should honestly not be positioning so you're in a bad situation. But you can just see how much we can harass here with our ultimate, and that's pretty easily going to secure a kill. And we could just do this all the time. I mean, it has a really, really good range. We can increase the range even more as the game progresses. Let's just scout this with some wisps. I guess that's some counterplay to an Abathur mine build, isn't it? Alright, we'll tank the lane for Hammer. There we go, we got a dragon pushing the middle lane. The mage style build definitely runs into some mana issues. I've tried the mage style build, just for the record, would be focused on the Q ability and comboing that with your ultimate to really just stack up poison from a very safe range. I think that's going to be really strong versus heavy frontline teams. So teams that have 2 to 3 warriors, you know, an Artanis who can jump right in. Artanis is very popular right now. A Thrall who could just charge right in. I think the mage style build is going to be significantly stronger against those style of matchups. Now, wow, I am in a terrible spot. Now, that being said, you are going to run into a lot of mana issues. So while you will be able to poke these guys down, you're not necessarily going to be dealing a ton of AoE damage to them. You're simply going to be able to play a lot safer in those situations. Oh, Vala, I got you, boo. It is really gratifying, though, to, you know, land these skill shots. She's very poke-oriented, very kiting-oriented. You never want to just sit there and trade with someone. You should always be moving away. You should always be marine microing, pressing A, left-clicking, you know, that kind of thing. Which is a very fun playstyle, for sure. Very fun. I am going to increase Nature's Toxin damage on slowed enemies. I think this is one of the best targets for just dealing reliable damage. So this Sylvanas here has 3 stacks of poison. We slow her, and all of a sudden the poison just deals more damage. Like, there's nothing to it. And this is a great way of dishing out AoE damage without making the character any more complex. This talent essentially just makes you better at what you've been doing throughout the course of the game already, which is just laying down your poison and then detonating it with your W ability. I think that's an excellent talent, and I think, well, I mean, you may go for the increased range by 40%, if you are going for a kind of mage Q style build, but regardless of the build, this is going to be just a really reliable talent for just dishing out damage, and it doesn't make you play any differently. It doesn't make you more aggressive or safer. It's just, you know, what you've been doing the whole game. All of a sudden you do it better. Which, you know, you could argue that those kinds of talents just aren't exciting, but I think those kinds of talents are necessary in a game. just making your character better. There's nothing wrong with that. We'll go ahead and just detonate our W on all these guys. It will push the blade a little bit more because we increase the damage on it. We can basically ult and then slow everything down, and it's really, really good. Now, we should be saving up 3 stacks of our ultimate and just spamming it in team fights. I haven't really been doing that. The enemy team, luckily, doesn't have stealthies and doesn't have a super aggressive, like, butcher charging in on me all the time. So we are having a pretty decent game here. So, I mean, maybe you're thinking my criticisms are a little unfounded. I encourage you to play the character, formulate your own opinions, and then get back to me and let me know. Because, you know, this is part of what the channel's about. I could share my opinion as much as I want, but you can do the same damn thing down in the comments. And kind of help me understand, maybe if you think I'm looking at the character in a way that you don't agree with. There's nothing wrong with that. Let's try to make our way down to the bottom lane. Now, because she just has a 20% increased movement speed, I'm going to die to fucking mines on the way down here, aren't I? Because she does have that just increased movement speed, she is able to chase people down significantly easier, but traveling across the map is significantly slower on Lunara than it is on most other characters. So on bigger maps, you are going to want to position your character so that she is in the middle lane normally, so you can get to objectives significantly faster than most people would be able to get to them. So for instance, the same idea with like a Sergeant Hammer on the Cursed Hollow. Same general concept. You want Sergeant Hammer to be in the middle because Sergeant Hammer is really slow, and having her in a central location just means that she can respond to the objectives on both sides of the map faster. So same idea here with Lunara. We're not really deviating from that. I am going to be going for increased attack speed at level 16. We're in a pretty dominating position right now, so I don't see any reason not to. Looks like the enemy Rexar has not been able to control our friendly team too much. Dude, look at this Uther though. Look at this hate. Uther, what did I do to you? Oh no, you saw me coming? Oh no, the Abathur top hat. So yeah, like situations like this, we could just totally bail out of. But in a long chase, the enemy team can simply just mount up and catch up to you every time. So you do have to get used to where you fight, your positioning, and things like that. A little bit more on Lunara than you do on most characters. And there you saw one of her major weaknesses. You are incentivized to always be kiting. So if you take one step in the wrong direction, you're going to be blown up before you really know what happens. And this isn't even necessarily a bursty team. When you're going up against Zeratools and Novas, which while I've been formulating my opinion of this character while we've been going into games, has been a very predominant duo that I've been going up against. It is just a nightmare. Now she does have some talents to really make her a little bit more bulky. Which are interesting, actually. At level 13, she has greater spell shield. Upon taking ability damage, reduce that damage and further ability damage by 75% for 3 seconds. Can only trigger once every 30 seconds. Normal spell shield only absorbs 50% ability damage, so this one is increased a little bit. Losing that mercenary camp there, no big deal. She also has an ultimate at level 20 that allows her to remove dot effects on herself, so that's actually really, really good in Lunara versus Lunara mirror matches. Like I said, there aren't actually very many damage over time effects in the game anymore, at least that you really need to be worried about. We used to have, oh shit, there you go, one step out, one step in the wrong spot. What killed me? Was it the spread of Sylvanas' W? I'm not sure. Anyway, so there are some things. I guess Sylvanas' W is a good example. She does have a little poison on her. Nazeebo's auto attacks do a little bit of poison. But generally speaking, I mean, this isn't a crazy useful talent. You do have Chain Bomb, you know, which a good Chain Bomb can totally sway the tide of battle. But at level 20, it seems a little late. Like, if you're ahead, getting more damage is probably better, and if you're behind, well, the game is probably over by that point. What else do I want to talk about? What else do I want to talk about? I think I've covered all of my main topics. Her other ultimate is pretty cool, and the fact that you can augment it at level 20 to jump to friendly targets as well is really neat. I think if they want it to be a viable ultimate, though, it's going to have to come in just at level 10. Like maybe at level 20 you just get more charges of it. Again, going with the concept of you have this ability that you've been using for the majority of the game, and now all of a sudden it's just a little bit better. But at level 20, being able to jump to allies, I feel like that's... It's good, right? But is it worth foregoing other choices for? No, I don't really think so. We need to be careful. We need to be very careful here. I'm actually getting surrounded a little bit. I did scout with my Wisp there. I should be doing that a little bit more. And there you can see me just using my ultimate and then immediately detonating it with the W. Again, just dealing more of that reliable damage. And as the enemy team's moving in, we're just going to poke with our ultimate. Maybe kill this Misha, maybe not. Increasing the range on this does actually help out a little bit. So the upgrade at level 20 for the Thorns is actually pretty decent, because it is rather difficult to reliably land this on very many heroes if you are positioning appropriately. If you're playing a little too aggressive, of course, you could just walk right in and land this on everybody. But if you're playing cautious like you should be, it is kind of hard to get a lot of AoE damage out of it. Sylvanas is down in the bottom lane dealing with that push. Hopefully she notices the shrine. All right, she's making her way over there now. I will become the Dragon Knight, maybe. Maybe. We'll see. We could scout here. There we go. Nice and easy. So, at this level range, you know, Abolish Magic, not going to be picked very often, especially in Hero League, where it's not possible to have copies. Galloping Gait is fantastic for chasing kills down. It's also fantastic for surviving and just getting away from things. Think of it as an epic mount on Falstad, but you keep your feet on the ground. That's essentially what it is. The enemy team making it really hard to push in here. Murden really wants to take that last keep, even though it's not really all that necessary at all. But I mean, if he wants to, okay, here you go. I'll start doing some damage to it. We could do it together. We could do it together, Murden. Gonna interrupt this follow-up. Wouldn't you know, that just didn't fucking work. Why did that do nothing? Wow, I have done absolutely nothing with this dragon. What a terrible, terrible dragon. And now the problem is I'm gonna be in a position where the enemy team could just kill me. Which is terrifying. Okay, so we do have the increased range on our ultimate, so let's poke these guys down here. There you go, that was a little bit of our burst that we can do. Of course, Sylvanas with the stim drone doing a lot there as well, but you know, give me some credit where credit's due. I was hitting my buttons, I was doing the things. And we should just be able to walk in and win the game right now. So it doesn't really matter where she goes, we just detonate the poison and then she dies. that part of the character is really enjoyable. The fact that it seems like you always have a plan B in these altercations, you know what I mean? Like, oh, if you're gonna run away, I could just blow this up and kill you. That slug though. I mean, that was a fun game. I feel like it's really, really hard to maximize her damage. She's listed as a medium difficulty character. But she has a play style that requires you to be extremely attentive. Attentive? I don't remember the word. It requires you to pay attention to a variety of things, like your positioning at all times, because as you start off, you take a step out in the wrong direction, odds are you're just going to die. And it also, she has extremely fast cooldowns. And I was not using them enough this game. Trying to talk and play at the same time is actually pretty difficult. And when you're getting to learn a new character, those kinds of things happen. So maybe she is medium. I would say she's a pretty difficult character for new players. And is going to require a lot of your attention to play on a very competitive level. She does have some flaws, but the things she does well, she does very well. And it's a pretty different play style from what we've seen in the game so far. So there you go. That's my first impressions in a very long-winded way. We have Blossom Soil at level 1 increases the radius by 20%. Again, the idea is that I want it to be poisoning as many people as possible. And this talent really didn't pay off for me very much at all. But if we do look at her level 1 talent tier, like, there's really not much to go for here. The reveal is really good versus stealth heroes, which you're going to see a lot this week. But other than that, I mean, you could deal more damage to minions, I guess. I don't really know. I think that actually might be the go-to. That would increase her pushing ability quite well. She could just spam her W significantly more often without really being punished for it. I think that might be a better choice. At level 4, whatever the fuck you want to take, it really doesn't matter. Really doesn't matter at all. Like I said, I've tried the Siphoning Toxin and it just does not seem worth it in any regard. If you're going for super split pushing, Splintered Spear, probably the way to go, but I mean, 99 times out of 100, I think most builds are going to use Wild Vigor here. Using Crippling Spores increases the damage of your next 4 auto attacks, so pretty strong. I didn't really utilize that enough. I'm always too afraid to go in too far. So to really get the best out of this talent, you know what I think would be better is increasing your attack range at level 16. I went for attack speed at level 16, and I think range is just better because you saw how cautious I had to play. If I stepped out at any point, I just died. So increased attack range would allow me to synergize better with our level 7 talent. I would say Thornwood Vine is the most reliable way of dealing damage. Leaping Strike, it does damage and it has a very low cooldown and it does allow you to reposition, but I can't see it being justified in its current state of the game. It just doesn't seem as good. This level range is actually one of her best talent tiers. It allows you to go more offensive with your attack damage talents if you are going for Wild Vigor. It allows you to go for more defense with Greater Spell Shield. And I like Unfair Advantage. I think that's a fantastic talent. Like I said, I think that's one of her best talents in her entire tree for just dealing more damage without becoming any more complex at all. At level 16, we already talked about it. I think increased attack range is a little bit better than attack speed. But, you know, that also depends on a game-to-game basis. If you have a crazy strong front line and a support that's going to be on you all the time, then by all means, increase your attack speed. Go ham. And then at level 20, Abolish Magic. I don't see it being used in very many situations, to be totally honest. It does have its place, but in a very small amount of games, I would say. You're most likely going to go for Galloping Gait, which again is a massive movement speed increase for 6 seconds, taking you up to 80%. That is twice the speed of a mount. That is crazy fast. Basically, it's epic mount, but you keep your feet on the ground, or you're going to be increasing your level 10 heroic choice. So that's all for me today, guys. I hope you enjoyed my thoughts on the character. Like I said, she's not bad. I don't hate her. I just think she has some pretty serious flaws that I think are going to be tweaked over time. So thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you all next time.